A common debate amongst all people is what happens after we die. Do we come back? Are we forever stuck in limbo? Well, today at Trending 10, we're going to bring you 10 stories that just might convince you that reincarnation actually exists. Now, just a little disclaimer, we're not here to start a debate in the comment section about which religion is right and which one is wrong. We're simply here to bring you an entertaining list of stories that will make you think about what happens after our time here is done. So let's keep it friendly in the comment section and dive on into today's list. Number 10. There was a young boy named Edward Austrian, who at the age of 4 developed a fear of gray, rainy days and began complaining about a pain in his throat. Whenever he was asked about it, he referred to his throat as his shot and would give detailed descriptions of the trenches, leading his mother to believe that he had been a World War I soldier who had been shot in the throat and killed. After taking him to the doctor, no reason was ever discovered for his throat pain, and he developed a cyst that could not be treated and only went away after he was encouraged to share more stories of the trenches. Number 9. Jenny Cocknell was a mother of 2 children who was convinced that she had lived before as an Irish woman named Mary Sutton after she had an incredibly vivid dream of her own death, or Mary's death rather, and had developed an amazing amount of knowledge about this other person, as she knew that Mary had just given birth to her 8th child at the time of her death and that she was 35 years old. After doing some research, Jenny came across records of an Irish woman named Mary Sutton who had died after giving birth to her 8th child. In 1990, she tracked down one of the children and decided to call them up on the phone. After talking extensively, the man, named Sonny, was convinced that he had been talking to his mother. Number 8. An anonymous woman decided to share this chilling story with the Epoch Times. She was talking to her 3-year-old son when he told her that he liked his new daddy, even though his father was indeed his biological father and his mother had never been divorced or remarried. His mother asked him why he liked his new daddy so much, and the boy replied, "My old daddy was really mean. He stabbed me in the back and I died. But I really like my new daddy. He would never do that to me." Number 7. Another anonymous reader of the Epoch Times wrote in with this story. "My older sister was born the year my dad's mom died. According to my dad, as soon as my sister was old enough to say the words, she said, 'I am your mother.'" Number 6. Cameron McCauley was born in Glasgow, Scotland. When he was 2 years old, however, he began telling his mother that he was not from Glasgow. He stated that he was actually from Barra, a small island off the coast of Scotland. Things got even stranger when Cameron began describing the house that he lived in, the dog he had, and the car that his parents drove. Curious, Cameron's parents took him out to Barra to see how much of the story was true. And while no one seemed to remember anyone by the name of Cameron, the family did find the exact house that Cameron described, right down to the dog that lived there and the car that the owner drove. Number 5. Gus Taylor was an 18-month-old boy whose grandfather had died a year before he was born. But once Gus started speaking, he would often claim that he was his grandfather, and that he was able to identify his grandfather in photographs even though he had never been told what he looked like. Things got even weirder when his grandfather's sister was murdered. Because he was young, Gus's family did not tell him of the tragedy, but miraculously, Gus began talking about how sad he was that his sister had been killed. Number 4. Quite a stir was caused in Golan Heights when a 3-year-old boy claimed that he had been killed in a past life. An incredibly bizarre thing for a 3-year-old to say. The boy even claimed that he had died from an axe blow to the head. Authorities walked the boy through villages and asked him if any of the residents looked familiar. And when he got to a particular village, he walked right up to one of the residents and said, "Aren't you Eli?" The man replied with a yes, to which the boy replied with, "I used to be your neighbor. We had a fight and you killed me with an axe. I even know where you buried the body." Eli was visibly shaken with nervousness as the young boy led a group of people to a pile of stones, under which was found the corpse of a child. He then led the group to another spot where the axe had been buried, where Eli broke down and finally confessed to his crime. Number 3. James Leininger began talking extensively about aviation when he was only about 2 years old, despite his parents knowing absolutely nothing about the subject. But things got really strange when James began having nightmares about being in a plane and getting shot down by another plane with a red sun on it, and would often scream at the top of his lungs while dreaming, saying things like "airplane crash" and "I can't get out." It was later revealed that the stories and dreams that James had been describing were the exact same as the real events that happened to James McCready Houston, a World War II pilot who had died 50 years before the boy was born. Our final entries come from the forum website known as Reddit. The first story comes from a user named WarScribe. He says, "I knew a guy who thought all things paranormal were nonsense and laughed at the mere thought that there could be truth to anything outside what was accepted. He told me a story of his, though, that really surprised me. He was in his late 50s, and his entire life, for as long as he could remember, he had a dream where he was standing in a field. It was always the exact same layout, rolling hills where he could see the tree line from his vantage point. The only real landmarks were a lone tree and a wooden fence. Every time he had the dream, he felt as if he was a young boy, and he could feel as if a large group of men was with him, seemingly behind him. He never told a soul, not his wife nor his kids. But one day he took his family to Gettysburg while on vacation. The exact vantage point was the Union high water line during the Battle of Gettysburg. It definitely disturbed him, but he still refused to consider it as being something paranormal." And finally, our last story comes from a user on Reddit named Rabi Normal Blues, who shared a very disturbing story about their childhood. Let us know what you think. "Since as long as I can remember, I've had vivid dreams about being a serial killer from the 1940s or 50s. I lived in an old farmhouse in the middle of the woods, secluded from everyone. I buried my victims, all women with medium-length jet black hair and very pretty, on my property. There were at least 50, if not more. I've been dreaming about this guy since I can remember. The details never change. I don't have a name or a location, but it bothers me enough that I tried searching, and I don't think I was ever caught. Sometimes I have moments where I genuinely miss my old life. In this life, I wouldn't hurt a fly and dedicated myself to helping people. Sometimes certain situations trigger feelings that are not really me, and I'm not sure where they come from. It's always the same type of girl and always the same thoughts of how to disable her in order to get her back to my place. I've come to terms with it though, and pass it off as an intrusive thought, but I've never wanted to act on it in this life." Possibly insinuating that he was quite the character in a previous life. But alright, there we go guys, that's it for our list of 10 stories that might just prove reincarnation does in fact exist. Got any other crazy stories of your own? Be sure to let us know down in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, drop a like and subscribe for more great content. But alright, that's it for this one guys. Thanks so much for watching Trending 10. Your guide to what's viral right now. We'll see you guys in the next one.